All right, what's up, everybody? It's going to be a great day. My name is Gavin. I'm going to go ahead and get you tuned in to a live call that we're going to go ahead and do. It's going to be on X, hosted by the BSV blockchain. The lovely Rory will be the host today, and I'll be coming on as making a special appearance to do somewhat of an interview there with her on some cool topics that we're going to discuss, including my interest in why I'm so passionate about making content about this space and how I believe it has changed things going forward, and it solves so many problems that the world's facing right now. By putting things onto this global ledger, this global public ledger. So it is a beautiful. It's going to be a beautiful space. It's going to be a real informative, and I will do my best to get this on the record and record. All right, so hopefully we can get that in. So stay tuned to the end, and we'll get hopefully open up for questions, answer any questions that people have, and get it out there, man. All right. I'll see you at the top and on the inside here.
Startups.
Yeah.
So today we will learn so much about the BSV blockchain and its capabilities for the world, as well as great life skills and deep thoughts
Yeah.
from the community spotlight today on Gavin Gregory Mail.
Sounds like a freaking blast. What an introduction.
Yes, welcome, Gavin. Top of the
Oh,
morning to you there in
top
San
of the morning.
Francisco.
San Francisco is cloudy. It's not even sun's not even really up yet. As here I am early talking to you. Glad to
Oh,
be here.
thank you so much. Yes, and Hurricane Helene has held off a bit here, and it's just a light rain right now in Georgia, but we're expecting more this afternoon. So, in this clearing, we can have a most meaningful conversation. So,
Absolutely.
thank you, Gavin.
Can I share a story before we get started here?
Yes,
Yeah, just
please.
yeah. Thanks for the kind introduction. So that this was funny. I just you talked about like life and mindset mastery and these things, and it's a perfect timing because this is one of these moments in life that I am on this public show, and I could kind of talk about like something that happened to me just yesterday that could be totally addressed, one way or the other. And so I leave yesterday. I leave the house and I go up to Sacramento, and I was gone all day, like 7 in the morning to like 8 o'clock at night. And I get home, and I'm tired. I got gas to come in, and I'm like just kind of like I don't know, getting organized. I'm thinking, okay, I got this thing tomorrow. I got to be up early, and I realized that somebody had freaking broke into the house. I was like, whoa, it was weird. I had this moment like, oh, wait a second, the doors moved, everything was changed. I was like, oh my gosh. I had this moment, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, what should I do? Anything something like that happens, you document it. And I realized, okay, I'm not hurt or anything. So I immediately filed a police report. It wasn't 911, it wasn't an emergency. I just wanted to document what happened, right? So I did that, and I had a hard time sleeping, but I woke up this morning early and I realized it's like, wait a second, when bad things happen, pop the champagne. Something good will happen from it. I don't know what, but it's every single time something like weird like this or awkward that seems bad, like scary. Oh my gosh, it's really, I wish this wouldn't happen. Something good comes out of it that's way better than before. And this has happened to me throughout life. So I just want to, start with a little story because when bad things happen, pop the champagne because something big and better will happen in life. It's just a slight change in attitude, and this has happened. I mean, I could go through story after story after story like this, but now I get to practice this and reteach myself. When I say that, it's not to teach you or the audience, Rory. It's really about reteaching myself this mindset again and again and again.
Of course. Yes. And being a teacher always enables us to learn.
Yeah.
So that is fantastic. And I'm glad you're safe and sound and that you were very thorough and filed the report.
Yeah,
So, yes, hopefully you'll continue to be safe and sound
definitely.
and that everything will work out very well there for you. And I had read your profile on LinkedIn, seeing your
Oh,
amazing experience. And one of the starts of it that really touched me was your background in baseball and how baseball has a kind of philosophy that was meaningful to you. I believe you even did some like baseball mindset mastery courses or something like that. Please share with
wow.
us that wisdom.
That's the first time anyone's ever asked me about that. Yeah, there was a book. So I was one of those baseball prodigies. When I was born, I was out of a test tube, and I was going to be born into baseball. That was like my entire life. That was it, and there was nothing else that mattered. From the time I was a little baby till the time I was 19. And so, when in going through that, I'm like going to all these camps, like little league camps, and all these different coaches and training facilities. And one of the trainers that I had, he got me into a book called The Mental Game of Baseball. And that was probably when I was thinking I was like, I don't know, early before I was a teenager, probably 11, 12, like around that time. And so, we would read this book, and then it would start to train you about visualization. And you'd go, and not just would we practice, extensively, but then we would also, and the coach, of course, recommended that we do this. And the book said this, to go out, sit in a couch and visualize the next day's game. And, you're getting the pitch and what you're going to do with the pitch and how you're going to hit it, where you're going to hit it, and how you're going to field the ball and get the guy out, and how you're going to score, and the crowd cheers, and all these things. So, yeah, that actually became a regular practice. Yeah, the mental game of baseball. And I definitely excelled in that, very, very much well throughout high school, and then early just in college. And it was absolutely amazing. It did so much for me. I couldn't be happier with the baseball experience. It led on to college after that, Roy, and then we went to
Mhm.
did fraternity, which was super life changing. Having a community like kind of like this that I relied
Uh-huh.
on, because I missed that in baseball and sports. When I went to college, I didn't play all my years, so I played the first year and then the second year, and then after that, I was like, I was no longer playing, and I thought, man, I really needed the community, so I rushed to fraternity. And that really made a huge difference, having a group of like-minded people going in the same direction, because it's like this mastermind principle that you have. And it's actually developed more later in life through reading Napoleon Hill. And my dad was a salesman for W. Clement Stone. It was an insurance company a long time ago. And they taught him, he was Napoleon Hill's business partner, W. Clement Stone. And they taught him like mindset training and sales. And so, one of the things that I picked up on early was like this Napoleon Hill mastermind concept. And it was, even in the fraternity days, like, okay, we were all in the same goal and the same purpose, even though we were really young and unorganized, but it was effective. And then that led on to another, more masterminds. Like, actually, like 19 guys from the fraternity ended up coming and joining a company with me after that. We all worked together, like 16 of us in the same office, working together, this cohesive mind, literally a mastermind after the same goal. And we excelled to becoming the number one in the branch in the whole company, out of like 10, 20, 30,000 branches. I mean, of this giant company. And it was because of the cohesiveness, the team focused on the same goal. I mean, and we were competing with each other, challenging each other. And if guys weren't late, we're late. We were like on top of each other to motivate each other. And it was like super incredibly competitive, but positive. And it just erupted. I mean, it was this unbelievable momentum cycle. It was more success than you can even imagine. Like at 22, 23 years old, just straight out of college, you're like this, but it would just started like building this incredible momentum. And then, after that, it just continued on, until I branched out on my own, had a business and had an office, became an entrepreneur, and, just had no life experience in the real world, really. And after that, and so I just had no idea what was coming. In 2008, everything completely crashed and went to zero. And I just saw none of that coming. So I basically did a complete reset after that, and started over rebuilding, and learned about this online world, started learning online stuff after that. And it was like learning about YouTube content creation, marketing, had some incredible mentors, Frank Calabro Jr., Simon Stepsis, and these incredible online marketers that showed me about, okay, you need to build content, and it's about, engagement, and these little write articles in the beginning. And I was really scared of getting on the camera at first. I said, I'll never do the camera. I can't do that. I'm not that type of person. I can't do it. And I literally was like, no, I will never do that. Then I had this mentor, Frank Calabro Jr., and he would just like, say, you got to get on there, and nobody's going to watch you in the first year. No one's going to care. And I just started doing it. I don't know, 2014, 2015, and nobody watched. But like by the year two, it started building up. And I realized at that point when I was doing it, I said, okay, I made a decision. I'm doing this not because I'm going to be famous or rich or anything like that. It's because I'm going to grow myself. I need to grow personally. At that point, I had a lot of growing to do and maturing to do because I just felt like I was not fully matured. I wasn't confident enough to get on stage and talk and be on camera and make mistakes. And so by doing that, it just started, developing the character so much through so many errors, like that it just literally, if by getting on camera is like the most, I would say, probably the most way to develop the character extremely fast. And I started just refining my personality and my speaking, the way I'm thinking, the way I'm listening to people, and then just my fear of public speaking or being out in front of anybody. It just went away after over time because of so many times doing it, so many times screwing up so many times that it just became more natural and more natural. And so now, it's just I think I've made like 1,000 videos on YouTube or more, plus all the ones I've deleted that are probably, were so bad or so poor. So, many times, and lots of them were screwed up. One of the videos I just did recently about mindset and content creation was about just setting a goal and doing it consistently. And I did this goal last year where I had actually fallen off the wagon on the videos. So I was doing them consistently, then I stopped, and then I was starting again, then I would stop, and then I just couldn't get it going again. And I was like, I took this challenge from this YouTube influencer that I followed, and she said, you need to, basically I had to pay $300 to be a part of this group, and it was like, do a 100-day challenge of making content. And mine was going to be a video. It could be any type of thing. It could be writing a post, a blog, a book, an article, any one thing. It could be just one thing that had to be done, but it had to be logged in this group every day publicly. So for me, I'd log my video in there and I said, I did it. And, people would like thumbs up in the Discord group. And so that's how it started. And then after 100 days, there was like 400 people that started. There was only like 10 of us that made it. And so I'm at the end and I'm thinking like, wow, I finally have this meeting with everybody. And I was like, I'm just getting started. Like this is only 100. I'm going to a
Yeah.
year. So yeah, I made it to a
Woo!
year and it's been a huge accomplishment. So I've had some people reach out to me after that, ask me questions about it. And I say, honestly, the best thing to do is start. You're not going to be perfect. You're never going to be perfect
Right.
ever. Just start.
Yeah. Oh, way to go and way to grow, Gavin.
Thank you.
That's excellent. You did it. And I joined one of those Get Shit Done global competitions led by George Sio Samuels. And we did mostly 30-day challenges over the last year or so, where we would say, okay, every day I will post on X and I will post a video. And then the next time it was, oh, I'll post a GIF or some kind of content that I would create, like a quote of the day. And it is so meaningful when you do complete the task. And there were times even when I didn't complete the task, but it then propelled me on to a new challenge where I will, succeed at this and complete the task. So I think these types of goal setting challenges in a community, like you're saying, are so helpful because at least you're holding yourself accountable, and maybe some others are also going to hold you accountable too in the group. So well done, Gavin. And
Thank you, Roy.
I myself did also grow up playing baseball. Of course, as a girl, I played softball.
Uh,
But Bobby Cox used to come to our games, so we were
wow.
pretty rocking. Yeah.
He was
So
big in the 90s.
anyway, seriously, that was that when it was. And there in the Terrell Mill softball league, I played third base mostly as a kid. And then later in life, when I was working in the central business district of Buckhead at a company that is now part of Accenture, at that time, we had a co ed softball team. And as a team, we would play games in the league after work pretty much, every week for months and months and months. And it just reminded me of the philosophy of baseball, how, the importance of momentum and your mindset to spark that momentum and carry you through the next inning to win. there were times when people would get down and say, oh no, they got us. Oh, we struck out. Oh, I swung out, and then you say, no, we got to be mindful of our momentum here, everybody. Let's go. Rah, rah, rah. And so then I served as the catcher on, towards the end of that experience. So I had a good view and I could holler at everybody and be like a cheerleader too. So I think that baseball is life skills, and it's that skill of persistence. You never give up. You never know how the game may change inning to inning. So just rock on and get more RBIs, as a team. So I love that concept of philosophy of baseball. So I wanted to share that, and also just ask, like, what would be, at least one deep truth that you've gotten from the game of baseball and playing it?
Well, I would say the most important truth is some of the things that you highlighted there, which is the mindset development when things don't go your way. In baseball, if you fail 7 out of 10 times as a batter, you're in the Hall of Fame. So that's 7 out of 10. So you're failing most of the time, but you just succeed only 3, and you're one of the best in the world. So, so it's this mindset of realizing, okay, I'm gonna fail most of the time, but when I do actually succeed, if I succeed enough, if it's in baseball just 3 times, I will be one of the best in the world. And that's I'd say one of the biggest mindset things that I've ever took out of it. When I would strike out, when I would fail, when I do something wrong, it wasn't, or other people in the team, it was like going up to him and like, look, let's get him next time. It's gonna be okay. Everybody makes
Mhm.
mistakes. We're gonna win. It's gonna, just immediately picking back up. And like when the other guy, needed something, you just encourage him right back away. And like, that's so important in a team environment, moving towards the same direction. And it works. It works. So yeah,
It
thank
really
you, Bert.
does. Yeah, thank you for that, Gavin.
Yeah.
And also, then I know that you also worked in sales,
Oh yeah.
and then you grew into being this big time investor. So I wonder, what was that journey like for you to go from an independent
Yeah.
contributor to business owner?
Well, sales is in my blood. I mean, that's been my when I went to college, it was funny. I went to college and I knew it wasn't really about the degree for me. I knew I was going to be in sales. That was it. When I was in the fraternity, I did sales for the fraternity and marketing and sales and marketing and talking to the new people. And then, so after that, I knew I was going to be in sales. I didn't know what, but I just knew that was always going to be my vision. That's just from what my dad did. And so, yeah, I loved it. When I went into sales, it just exploded. I mean, I was doing full-time work in sales through college, selling furniture. And then, I went to a company after that and literally became the number one in the whole company, which is a household name company nationwide, Ameriquest back in the day. And I mean, I was the number one in the whole place. I mean, that's on the record. So, after that, it
Beautiful.
just totally built momentum, and it was, but it taught me, and I would go around speaking to the other like guys around the country at times and conferences and I would tell them, I was like, look, I mean, I fail, I'd say about, I would make 300 calls and I would fail like about 270 calls of the 300, so most of the times I was failing, just so you
I
guys know,
know.
but I fail more than all you other guys. That's why I do better. So I take more
Right.
swings.
Good for
I mean,
you.
that was literally
Yes.
the message. And there is a method to it though, not only the persistence, but there is a method to it. And it's, it would take a little deeper call to go into it, but there is a mindset in discussing these topics with people. And one way, is through this concept of label mirroring and accusation audits. Let me give you a short example. Let's say that,
Ooh, okay.
a person, let's say that we want to go out and talk to a company to invest in BSV, and they're going to be a big investor. Well, figure that they've heard every pitch under the sun. They always get these startups. They're a startup and they're always investing in these startups. But, if I were to come to them differently and actually take the time to know what their pain points are, what problems they're facing, and why they usually say no, then I would actually label all those things in advance. And I would go to them and I say, look, it seems like in the past, you come into people and they make a lot of promises and they don't deliver. It looks like in the past, you meet someone and they just ask you for money, but they don't, give you anything in return. They don't perform. I said, and I want to get them to say that's right. I want them to get them to say that's right. As soon as they say that's right, boom, then the report, that means they understand. And I don't have to actually say, do you understand? Are we on the same page? As soon as they say that's right, it's the golden ticket. That's it. They're ready to buy. They're ready to convert. And I didn't have to ask them to. It's just a matter of, did they say that's right? And one of the funny things I've learned on sales, when I call people, and everybody could start practicing this right now, is you do actually everything in reverse. You'd figure that in sales, you say, hey, hi, how are you today? Can I speak to John? Would you like to do this? Would you like to do that? Well, they're used to always hearing that. So as opposed to just going and saying, would you like to do something? You always start with a negative. I start with a negative and I say, is now a bad time? And then they're going to say no, because if getting them to say yes is taking energy, it's a contract, it's a verbal commitment from them. But by getting them to say no, that's no big deal. They like saying no. They want to say no more. So I'm asking them for no's in the beginning. Is now a bad time? No, it's not a bad time. Go ahead. Okay, cool. So I'll always say that in practice. Whenever I call people on the phone, you'll hear me say, hey, it's now a bad time. It's a negative, and people laugh like, oh, yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's not a bad time.
that's
Go
such a
ahead.
good idea. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then even if it is a bad time and they do say yes, they're probably going to also take that extra step to tell you when would be a better time.
that's right. That's right.
So that would lead to a more meaningful conversation where they know you're listening and you know they're listening.
That's right.
So therefore you can resonate more. So I love that. Thank you, Gavin.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Beautiful. And then I'm going to go right to the punch. Okay. One,
Please
two,
go
punch.
ahead.
Here we go. So, from all of that experience, now you see the impact that micropayments can have on the world,
Yeah.
small casual payments. And in reading your work, I believe that this is quite a passion for you. So, please explain
Yeah.
that passion to the audience like we're five. Why is micropayments, what is that? Why is it a big deal?
Well, okay. So let's break it down in a couple simple ways and go through kind of my journey as to getting this, wrapping my head around this. Because it's not an easy concept. So just, I'm labeled some of the pain points that people are probably facing if they're new for the first time. And that is like comprehending the value of this, the science, the math, the economics, the legal side, the tech. It's just, it's definitely, it can be complicated, but in a sense of like simple terms, there really are just five things that are required. What I really have come to learn now, in a true I would say digital commodity, something that's going to be lasting is what I wanted. I wanted something that was not just pumping up and going up and down. And I want something that's going to be here in 50 years that I can be like, hang my hat, like, this is it. I want to see, this is the future. And so I had to like go through a long maze to get to that point. But, now it's come to like, in simple terms, breaking it down into just like five elements. It has to have an economically competitive model. So if it's a digital asset, it's got to be economically competitive. So if it's not economically competitive, meaning there's just a proof of stake and you put coins somewhere and you get a return, well, that's not competitive. It has to be economically competitive. It has to have a chain of digital signatures. So every time on the chain, there has to be a log of the transaction so that I can have a receipt, that I know I sent that to somebody in case I need to get a receipt or show a court someday that I did that transaction. So if there's no chain of digital signatures, then it's not viable. Unbounded scale is the other part. It has to be able to grow unboundedly. It can't be capped. If it's capped, just the future's just not going to be lasting. It's going to run out someday. So it has to be able to grow unboundedly without question, without limits. And then there has to be like a supply. So, a lot of times when I look at these things, I'm unsure how many tokens are in of these other protocols out there. It's kind of like question mark. They grow and they change, but it has to be fixed. It has to be solid and fixed, set in stone. And then the last thing, it must be a locked protocol. The protocol cannot change. Otherwise, like investors, they can't come in because, if the protocol changes tomorrow and an investor puts money into this, he's going to want his money back. He's going to file a lawsuit and say, you guys changed everything in the contract. That investor is going to need a locked protocol no matter what, because it's super important when you're dealing with investors that, you get contracts that they're depending on. And so it has to be a locked protocol. So, for me, what happened was I looked at all these companies that, when I got into this space, I really wanted to be a part of it, more involved in it, and I just saw that there was like this missing element, which was the casual payments. And I see like people have like tried to do it, but I just seem like that seems to be the most, like, the simple part of the paper was casual payments. And that's like,
Good point.
yeah, it
Yeah,
seems
we
like,
could all understand that part.
yeah, just the casual payments online. And I'm like, well, what happened to that? Like, where did that go? And I just always wondered. And I don't think we've truly captured it yet. But I do believe that we have captured it, but it hasn't gotten to the mind of the masses yet. But it's going to happen very, very soon. It's all happening in perfect time right now. So it's just one of these things that we have to blend in the old. What's going to happen is we're going to blend in the old world with the new world, and create this global truth ledger, all on chain, and allow people to exchange through casual payments, but they don't necessarily need to know, hey, how does this technology work exactly? Like, well, how does the internet work? I really have no idea how to even use a router. I don't even know how to use a modem. In fact, I don't even know what a modem looks like. I mean, that's stupid, but I don't, when it comes to these tech things, it's like, I'm literally like 5 years old. I don't know how these things work, but I literally, that's where we're going. And I don't think people are going to need to know all about Bitcoin and how it works and why these 5 elements matter and how the tech works. It's just going to work. And that's what's happening. That's what's really the most exciting part. I think that's what people who are missing it, they just don't see yet. They don't see that it's going to be the small casual payments. It's going to be the use of this technology in the background through fiat. I mean, because we're in a fiat world, like it or not. That's just the way it works right now. And people are going to keep using fiat until it's no longer viable. So we have to blend with that world and allow these fiat people who use fiat to use the technology without having to learn about it and know about it and decide, well, what about this other Bitcoin, or what about this other blockchain or token protocol and all this stuff. And we just, once we overcome that and they just start using it, one of the great examples is Brett. I have a lot of respect for him, and he teaches me so much. Brett Banify, and his trading card game that he's talked about. Like imagine like go into the stores and you just you go to the let's say the video game store, and you just buy the cards and you start playing on the game, and you start using the blockchain, and you don't even know, like, oh, we're using a blockchain. Well, I don't really care. I'm just playing this game I like, and I got this card, but it's all logged, and it only works because of the blockchain in the background. And that's where this is all going. And I think that the only way forward is on the BSV blockchain, because it's, there's reasons. So I've had a lot of conversations off the record with people in this industry. In fact, one of the guys is a big time in this industry. I really am not allowed to talk about too much about who he is, but okay, there's a company out there called nChain. All right. And this company, they are extremely influential in this industry. They've kind of been behind the scenes with a lot of things. But one of the things they've done is they have they've set out a long time ago, like all the way back since like 2008, a vision of like wanting to protect the property over this industry that they've created, which is this blockchain industry. And they're really like very like I consider them like this super, super kind, very sweet, nice, like a horse, a beautiful stallion. He's so kind. He's not he's harmless. He's like beautiful and wonderful to be around, and that's how they are. Like there's just absolutely peaceful, but they held so much power and so much influence over the space because of what they've created. Now, these patents go that over the space reach into the thousand. Now there's only been a couple of them challenged, but every time a patent is challenged, it actually makes it stronger. And there's plenty of cases to back that up. When it's challenged, it makes the invention stronger. And so there's only been a few come to challenge. There's a lot more to go, but I know that they're really excited about having the technology challenged, having the patents challenged over time, and if they're effective or not. And they believe, and I have reason to believe as well, that the entire industry, a full circle, not just a little bit over here in the corner, but the whole industry, full circle, is patent protected by nChain. That's their belief. Okay. And I believe that too, as well. So, I mean, I really think it's going to have to be a determined in court as to how true that actually is, because other people would probably say different, but this is a major factor when I was looking at everything in BSV, because if we're, I have a legal background, and if it's long term, it has to be legal. And I mean, I used to object to legal stuff when I first started out, and I thought, oh, it's too complicated. I don't want to do it that way. It's too hard to learn. I hired attorneys, and they would charge me, and I would lose. And then they would say, oh, don't worry, we'll get him next time. And this happened. I remember the pat on the back moment with the attorney so many times. What would happen is, you'd lose the case, you'd lose the motion. I'd lose the motion. I'd go into his office, and he'd say, don't worry about it. We'll get him next time. I promise you. And then the next time would come, and then we'd lose again. And then it would come again. We'd lose again. And then I finally was like, you know what? How come we lost? What would happen? And I just, I didn't understand. It was my fault. I didn't understand what he was saying. I didn't know. It was too confusing. So I really had to learn from the ground up. And but once I realized, it was like, this law stuff is super important. The statutes, the framework, what the court says, it's not only important, it's like everything. I mean, that's how we operate right now, and is this legal framework. And so, by identifying where the regulation is currently and where it's going, and that includes patents, because that's civil. That's the civil side, is a soup, like is absolutely imperative. And to think that, large institutions are investing huge amounts of money in this industry right now, and not getting freedom to operate certificates, which is a standard practice in business. So if I wanted to go out and start a business right now as an entrepreneur, and I said, you know what, I really like this new industry. I like what they're doing over here in this blockchain industry. It's really cool. I don't really know much about it, but I'd like to start. Let's see if anybody's thought of this idea that I have yet. I wonder. Well, let me hire an attorney, and he's going to go out and research, and he's going to give me a freedom to operate certificate and determine if anybody's thought of this great idea that I have, because I don't want to waste a bunch of money and time if it's already invented by some other guy. And it turns out that, most companies, they just forget to do that. They don't do that for whatever reason. It seems like there's this mantra of, oh, it's decentralized, it's permissionless, and it doesn't matter. None of that matters, but it does matter. This freedom to operate certificates and over patents are absolutely essential because of the First Amendment in the United States, which it protects property rights. And property rights come from, just the right to speak, the right to talk, the right to work, the right to own property is our First Amendment. It's our first most important God-given right. It's sacred, and it's treasured in America. So we value it that much. And so the rigidness over property when I say property, intellectual property falls into that, is extremely rigid. It's not just up for question like willy-nilly. Oh, no big deal. This one's okay. We'll let it go just because we don't like you. Doesn't matter who likes who. It's letter of the law. It's by the statute. It's by the book with this when it comes to this property stuff. And they do follow this. And no, that comes back to what I believe, what I like about nChain, and that is that they're this quiet stallion, thinking like just a very peaceful, quiet stallion in the background. They don't raise a hair. You don't even really hear from them. Who are they? I never really heard about them. Who's behind who, what? They're just so peaceful and quiet, but there's so much muscle and power there. It's like this, untapped potential just growing and strengthening and getting more and more momentum behind them that they don't need to flex because they're so powerful and strong, and so it's I'm just really excited and grateful to not only have an opportunity, but just to have the foresight and the vision to see through all of the noise, because it's so noisy online, and it could take years and years and years for people to get through it. So I hope that I could be a voice of truth and reasoning to people, and that's one of the passions I have about making videos, is that people resonate with them, because I'm just going to tell it like it is, and I've never once taken an ad dollar on my channel. Not once. I've never once said, hey, sell this Coca-Cola or a pack of Marlboro Red cigarettes for money. I mean, I've been offered sizable amounts of money to do that, and I've turned it down, and so I hope that I can, for the reason being, because I want credibility. I want to be able to say, hey, I'm just going where my heart follows and where the truth is and where I believe the future is going, legally, where we're going to be able to have an honest system. And it's super, the truth ledger is something that I think it's untapped. This is another big part of it. Figured that we have this dishonest system right now, where we live in a world of uncertainty, of a lot of deception and the behind the scenes and backdoor dealings, and more and more we see in the mainstream news that things are coming out, that people did bad things and didn't tell anyone about it, and they didn't know about it, and it was hidden. We didn't get notice. And these things this entire ledger will solve these, because it creates a mandatory truth, mandatory disclosure. And in the law, there's something called due process. And it's actually one of our most important fundamental principles. It's about notice and opportunity. And so what this ledger does is it gives everyone notice and opportunity. Here's what I'm doing. It's out there for everyone to see. You have an opportunity to challenge it or object to it if you like, but it's there permanently. That's it. Everyone sees it, and so that's where the future is. Why this is going to be it's so important. It's so powerful, And if anybody hasn't already begun to get their mind around this entire system, I mean, I'm just going to break down the 5 things. It's economically competitive, chain of digital signatures, unbounded scale, fixed supply, and a lock protocol. It has to have those 5 things. So when you're looking and doing research and fact checking, going out there and looking at everything you can find about blockchain, and make sure that it has those 5 things. As long as it has those 5 things, it's going to be around in the long term. Because if it doesn't, well, you're dealing with something that is either undefined in the law, completely undefined, and you're dealing with something speculative, or something that's completely just against the law, and it has no value to it. So it's super important to wrap our heads around that. I mean, there's an old case called SEC versus Howey Company in 1943, and it defined what these securities were in the law in America. And, it's something that we can take a lot of instruction from now going forward, because if we have a new asset class, like say Bitcoin, and it's not really super defined yet in the law, but we can look as to what that court said, what a commodity is and how it compares. And an unbounded scale and a lock protocol means there's no reliance on a specific enterprise. So if you have nobody that you have to rely on, no middleman. See, that's the big connection here. The supply is fixed, and it's not dependent on the efforts of anybody else. So I don't have to have a guy up in an ivory tower win a court case or say it's okay to matter. It doesn't make any difference. I can be on any level of income, any color, any race, anybody. It's completely equal. Fails to meet an so the comparison like of this that's super important. I think that other people are also some people are aware of, but it's this concept of having the um of oh, now I lost my train of thought. Back to you, Rory. Go ahead.
That's okay. Yeah, Gavin, you're on a roll there. I love it. And there's so many great, I want to say, nuggets in there, golden nuggets in your speech that you just shared there. So thank you for that. I think of the jazz song Take Five,
Mm.
and I'll be listening to Take Five as I repeat your
So
the five fundamental aspects
Dave
because
Brubeck.
that
So
sums it up.
let me tell you about Brubeck here because this is a funny story. So when I was in went to call when I went to college in my rush class, I was let's see 2001. I was the rush chair and I rushed over 54 guys into the fraternity that year. And one of the guys was a named guy called Michael Brubeck, and he was this tall, good-looking guy, 6'3". And it was hard to get, when you're in fraternity, like, oh, we got to get this guy, he's great. And he's a Brubeck. And I heard, what's that? Brubeck. Oh, Brubeck. Okay. And so he ended up rushing and he made the fraternity and, we brought him in and after, I brought him into this company I worked for, and he started working with me as like a really good friend. And we became like best friends. And so when we were in college and then thereafter, and he would take me to his uncle's concerts, Dave Brubeck, and I'd get to watch him play the jazz. And this guy on the piano it was like ivory. It was like I mean, it would just give you goosebumps. And he was an old man. He was in his 90s, and we would go and watch him every time he was in town. Multiple times we'd go out and watch him play small gatherings. We'd meet him. We'd go wherever we could find him. He would take me with him. We'd watch him, and it was just this. I even brought my mom. It was just magical music that you can't describe. And there's something about the music, the way he did it. It had this extra riff to it that was new. And so when you hear that Take Five album, and mindful now, if you look at it, it's the number one selling jazz album of all time. So it's not just somebody. It is the top guy. So that's a funny story about Brubeck.
Yay.
He's a heck of a guy.
Oh, fantastic. So
Yeah,
then that's so you know the Take Five jammer.
definitely. Well, when he before he died,
Wow,
his
Gavin.
nephew was his nephew was the one that I Michael.
Yes, that you knew well.
Oh yeah.
Right. Oh, how fabulous. Well, yeah, that must be nice there in San Francisco. You got a lot of arts and entertainment to enjoy there. That's beautiful. And yeah, I think that, like you said, that take 5 points of the fundamentals does make it easy for people to comprehend what we're talking about. But of course, I accept the fact that most people are going to, for the foreseeable future at least, look to the mainstream. And
Yeah.
they'll still look to the kind of ancient aspect of just having a stock market and like buying shares of stock.
And
So many in the mainstream that's all they understand Bitcoin or blockchain to be.
yeah.
And that's okay because, like you say, those that are interested in the fundamentals of the principles of what makes it what, those are there for us to understand and for us to relate to those that are interested. And my question, though, is at what level does it become used? Because it is important to know these fundamental points to then make the best choice. If you look to the mainstream, you get a lot of talk about, prestigious institutions like MIT. They are really, just shot callers for ETH and Ethereum. And then we know that's account based. And also, there's many DeFis that are proof of stake focused. And we know that that is not competitive in a real lively sense because it's just those who already have the most that stack up what they have and make up the rules. whereas proof of work would be work based, effort based, and there's always that chance for an upstart to come up and perform better and to take the lead, but they must do so with excellence. So, for these reasons, we understand why we are choosing the unbounded proof of work blockchain that is public for the world, that is BSV blockchain. But for the mainstream, they're not necessarily going to choose that. So, who's doing the choosing? Who's the decision maker? Who is it that understands these principles and will then enable a massive use case?
Well, that's okay. That's a great question. I mean, who is the decision maker? And really, it comes back down to the people, and it comes back down to the people in the con. The most important, I would say, the most important element of this entire industry, the problem that it solves, and the reason that I got turned on to it in the first place was I wanted to be able to exchange with someone else. And I actually had a credit card merchant business in the past where I would do I would set up merchant accounts for businesses, and then they would pay me a referral fee, a commission every single month for, percentage that they pay in credit cards. So I was very mindful of the amount of money they would charge every single month on top of the transactions. And with that experience, I realized I was like, well, I sure don't want to be on the other end of that, because I realized how expensive it was. And so when I learned about this, I thought, wow, this is super important. If I could find a way to like get this peer-to-peer stuff working with no middleman, first of all, I'm going to be able to limit the cost down. And then I'm going to also be able to eliminate the worry of like, well, what if the guy in the middle, it goes out of business, he goes away, he doesn't like me, doesn't want to do business. I mean, there's so many worries about when you're dealing with, well, is that a trusted party in the middle? Like, I mean, this is always been a concern of mine, if they're actually trusted or not. And so this whole getting idea of going into a peer-to-peer economy, I think is the key element here. And to answer your question about like who's going to ignite it, it's going to be the people. When I say the people, I'm talking about consumers to consumers, consumers to consumers, creators to consumers, not the middleman. It's not the middleman. It's not the industry. It's the consumers to consumers. They have to do it by themselves. But they just need to have a platform. They need to have the tools built around them so that they can, work with each other. And a good example is the video game that Brett is doing. A perfect example. Think about it. He's enabling people to play the game with other people who like that game around the world. They don't need Brett, but Brett just helps them with the technology and the tools. And it's these people in a peer-to-peer way, using the technology to do something they like and then they enjoy, and they can consume together for a fair and a price that they agree to. That's how this ignites, is that, and Brett's business is a perfect example of a peer-to-peer way where people don't really need to know, oh, what am I using? How am I using it? It's something that they don't need to know any of that. They just know that I like that game. I want to play the game, and I want to play with that guy over there, and he has what I want. So I'm in. Let's do it. He and I play. And this allows that, and it's actually that and the content creator industry is just absolutely going to revolutionize this whole industry. And there's so much more I'd like to share about that, but a lot of it I can't share. So, I can share whatever. I'll just give you the kind of a overview of where I see this going, which is an absolute explosive next couple years. I mean, and it's one of these things like all the groundwork has been laid, everything wrong has happened, all the bad things have happened now. Everything has already went wrong. And so we've flushed out all those things. And now for somehow, some way, there's still this technology in the background. And I had this conversation with this great mentor over the weekend, and I had this issue with like a personal issue. And it was like, he's like, hey, Gavin, personalities don't matter with this technology. It's good to be nice to people and care about them. But if somebody doesn't like somebody else, the technology continues on, and it's compliant. It's regulatory friendly. It has the elements. It continues on, personalities or not. And so that's really what we have here at our fingertips is is a machine that is just about exposing the truth. I got to give a plug to a video by SG Anon, and he's this guy on Rumble. I followed him a little bit, but he has this pretty big podcast show, and he had a show on there over the weekend, and actually it was this week. It's episode 98, and on this show, it's almost mainstream. I mean, it's kind of fringe mainstream, but it's almost, it's pretty big. And he had this show on there with these guys, and they went and discussed like the future of money and talking about money and talking about like the problems that are being faced right now and discussed it on a philosophical level. And the host, this guy SG Anon, he was super open-minded. I would encourage everyone to watch it. How do you even find it? It's like Q News Patriot, I think, is his channel. But the host is very, very neutral, and he's asking questions, and he's open-minded, and he's asking all these questions about Ripple and XRP and Ethereum and Bitcoin and how it all works. And some of the questions about like, well, what about these proof of stake models? Why is it important to not be proof? What's the difference? And on this video, they really break it down in a like an unplanned, unscripted, back and forth little kind of a joust between philosophy and between the entire backbone of this system through a beautiful educational. I mean, it was so good. I had to watch it like 2 or 3 times, and it was shout out. The guy, he goes by Sirtoshi on the video. And his speech on there is just so on point. And the other guy who he didn't know, this wasn't, from what I understand, it wasn't scripted. They just kind of went back and forth and flowed on there. But it's one of these videos that everybody should watch if they haven't seen that type of talk before, because it really breaks down like this, why it's so important for people to see that it has to meet these. If you want something that's lasting, if you want something that's going to be around. And one of the funny things about mainstream, there's this video that went around, Rory, a couple days ago, and it had Donald Trump. He was signing a Bitcoin transaction down in Florida. He was going to use Bitcoin, and at the transaction, he meets there, and he gets there, and he's on his phone. It's not his phone. The guy pulls it out. Hey, buy this on your phone. There's 2 guys around him. There's the merchant. There's his assistant and him. And so he puts his phone down, and it doesn't work. And then he puts it down again. It doesn't work. Then he puts it again. It doesn't work. Then he gives it to the merchant. And then the merchant, who actually, this is against the law. The merchant's not allowed to do the transaction for the consumer. That's actually, it's a merchant law. You're not allowed to do that. But then the merchant, he does the transaction for the consumer, who was Donald Trump at that time. And then everyone applauds, and then they clap. And it turned out that it actually, what it did was it created a transaction into a middleman. And just went on. It wasn't any different than going and doing a regular Visa transaction where you do a credit card and send it to Visa. Visa does it, and then your other associate gets it. Or you do a Facebook Messenger and you say, hey, I'm going to send you a message. You got it, right? Yep, I got it. And I don't really see that Facebook got it first and they got to filter it and then they sent it to you. Same thing that happened there. He did it. It went to someone else. Then the other party apparently got it. But that's the whole thing I wanted to get away from. I don't, if I have to keep doing a middleman, then I really am not interested. I already don't trust these people, and I don't want another middleman in the middle of when I'm doing this stuff. That's the whole reason I'm here, is to eliminate the third party and have trusted transactions with each other. There's a company actually here at San Francisco that is, I became really good friends with actually in 2022, when I was kind of sniffing this whole thing out. I went down to a conference in Silicon Valley. And I saw that Jimmy Nguyen, this guy who I'd read about in a book, was going to be a book called The Sirtoshi Affairs, was going to be speaking. So I went and I saw him at this event in Mountain View, and he speaks, and I sit down at a table with him, and I wanted to ask him a few questions. And I'm talking about the book, and he and I were hitting it off. He's a really smart patent attorney, and he's really busy. He's like, I want you to meet the most important man in Bitcoin. And I said, oh, I laugh, and he points over to this Chinese guy, and I was like, who? Yeah, at first we had a hard time communicating and on the language barrier a little bit. But we became friends, and he ended up convincing me to go out to Dubai and really explore this whole thing. But his name's Xiaowei Lu with Scrypt, and one of the things that they have done, which is so revolutionary, is they've made ways for developers to easily just use their language to write contracts on Bitcoin. And this is important because if I'm a business owner and I want to make a contract with if I'm like becoming like Salesforce and I want to write contracts with all these people, well, I want to pre-program them and make sure these contracts are effective, they work. And also I want to make sure it's going to be on a protocol that's economically competitive. It's got a chain of digital signatures because I need to be able to track every signature. I'm a big company. I can't just be willy-nilly about this. Unbounded scale, it's going to grow. I'm a huge company. I got to be able to grow. It's got to be a fixed supply and it has to have a locked protocol so it's long term. So these elements, these companies are looking at these like saying, well, let me make sure it has these elements, and then we can build these contracts on top of these protocol on top of a protocol to make our business run better. Because one of the breakthroughs about this technology that I'm not sure people are really aware of is the accounting. So one of the things I'm personally able to witness now is how the accounting side is so amazing. It's the first of its kind. So for example, if you have a referral program, I started out as an affiliate, as a like affiliate marketer, and I would market let's say a product online, and I would get paid an affiliate commission if I sold that product. Well, hopefully I get it. I didn't really know. Sometimes it would come in. Sometimes I'd have to call the company and they say, oh, we went out of business. This happened to me one time. The company went out of business and they went away and I lost everything. And then other times it just took a while. I didn't get my money. Other times I got it. It was just a guessing game, if I was going to get paid. But in with this accounting system, what did it authorized through smart contracts like Xiaowei Lu with this script, pre-programmed contracts, it allows for the consumer and the creator or the other entity to have that agreement already in place so they know when they sign up for the business for the product that they want or the transaction they're going to have, they're going to get it according to the contract. It's already pre-written and predetermined, and they can see it on the blockchain. And so when we're talking about large industry or even small industry, anybody who wants pre-programmed accounting contracts to make sure that their customers, their affiliates, their referrals get paid. I mean, imagine if you have just 10 employees, and then you're going to give those 10 employees referrals for every new customer that they bring in. Well, you got a pretty serious accounting problem. I mean, not it's just not that easy. It's going to be some work. You're going to be like, okay, this guy gets 10%, he gets 10%, he gets 5%. And now you got a lot of work, and maybe you screw it up and they don't get paid, and then you have a legal problem. But in this case, it's already all pre-programmed and done, and it's done for a fraction of a cent with just with a economically competitive model, a chain of digital signatures, unbounded scale, fixed token supply, and a locked protocol. That's what makes this whole thing work. Rory, back to you.
Thank you, Gavin. And again, you bring us back to the vision of the consumers and the individual developers, the people that are here, there, and everywhere building or that want to build. They will be the ones that will then make this transition. It will be choice and person to person then in this vision that you've sent is that, yes, all of the people have the opportunity that have been building on Ethereum to see the price difference of using script to build on chain and on chain at scale, because as we know, Terranode is listening and soon to be fully parallelized with the SV node. And these overlay services and the Bitcoin Mandala upgrade are enabling this whole new era of throughput. And we will be able to see the likes of Agritech and Mint Blue and Sirtoshi and so many of the companies, even Lamint, that are here in the ecosystem, already built and continuing to build using this expanded throughput in new and creative ways. And because of the great price opportunity of having micropayments, which are small casual payments, way less than a penny to transact, that will appeal to many that want to build their own decentralized applications from all around the world. And then beyond, you mentioned that. Oh, I lost it, Gavin. You off to you.
You mentioned a really good number of really good companies there, And one of the concepts there is the creator economy. And there's this is this kind of a new business model that is hard to wrap. It's hard to wrap my head around when I first heard about it. I'm familiar with Instagram, and you go on Instagram and I buy or I don't buy, I just post my photos and I look at them and I like them. And it's kind of like a social media where that's cool. And when I first actually heard about Lamint, that's kind of what I thought it was. And I thought, oh, it's cool. It's kind of like Instagram and whatever. That's neat. It seems neat. It's absolutely not that. And it took me the longest time to figure that out. I was like, wait, what? It's not? Well, it wasn't until I started searching on there and I tried to find people and I couldn't find anyone. I thought, well, why can't I find my friends on here? Nobody's here. What's going on? And it's because it's creator economy. It's only for creators to consumers. So the creator, it's kind of like the creator's own private little business, his private little website. So that creator does whatever he's gonna do on that, or he or she's gonna do on that platform. And his other audience on Twitter, on Instagram, on these other platforms can then go there. And so it's a brand new business model. It's only been around for a few years. So it's rather confusing to look at it. It actually is almost like, well, I've never heard of this, but it is following the most successful business model for the last 5 years. So I wouldn't put it past anything by when I heard about it, I didn't get it. It took me only honestly, it took I'm one of these guys. I mean, it took me one phone call. And after one phone call over an hour, it was done for me. I didn't need to hear anymore. It was it. So I realized there is so much more to say about that I'm under NDA and not allowed to talk about, but that I'm just dying to say. I'm ready to just talk about it, but I can't, so it's just a super exciting time.
It is indeed, yes. And that makes me think of a popular lawyer advertisement here on the radio. He says, one call, that's all.
One
So
call, that's
it
all.
seems like that's what happened with you and Lamint. Well,
Yeah.
then may I ask, in your experience, your prior experience as a VC, as an investor in startups, how much is it that you are investing money versus also investing in your time and energy and mentorship that you give people?
Well, mostly, that's a good question. I mean, it's funny because after you start to kind of build a brand and you have a like small amount of influence, then it's usually about like there usually isn't a capital investment, for those types of situations in my experience, because they want, a company would want you to talk about it. I get, promoting their opportunity, promoting their business. And so it wouldn't be a capital investment. But in a company like you mentioned, like Lamint, it's one of those rare exceptions that I mean, I mean, I wouldn't normally do that unless it was that life-changingly good. Trust me, I would not just be, oh yeah, anything works. I'll just go. No, it is. I was so impressed. Literally that's how impressed I was. I was like, this is one of those times that, I had to call a few friends and laugh because I say, wait till you see what's going to happen in the next couple of years. And I don't know how long this show is going to go on here, Roy, but I mean, I'd love to keep it going. I mean, I know you probably got to end soon, but I mean, I do host a lot of these spaces on X. I don't have one planned right now, but I'm going to do another one usually on Fridays. I like to have Kurt, like to do, other people, like to have you on and do a mastermind. Originally, we did this thing with Brett, and he and I were talking about doing like this mastermind for the community. And I actually, what
Oh,
happened
how
was is that
fun.
when I had this mastermind concept taught to me by Napoleon Hill, and I realized how powerful it was. And so I started, my dad actually still has this mastermind group to this day. Every Thursday, I meet at this restaurant, and I learned from him. And then he's, basically shown me that having a group like that, collaborating with equal minds after the same vision together and solving the same problem is super, super key. So, I mean, it literally ignites the minds in a positive direction and it can solve impossible problems. So we started it kind of like out in that direction and we've been evolving on that. And so I want to keep that going. It's not really, it's kind of on Thursdays, Fridays at 8 right now. I'm kind of doing that, but it's kind of like, well, maybe and maybe not, just depends on how it goes and what's in the news. So be mindful of that. Follow my YouTube channel if you're not already following it at Gavin Mail, Gavin Gregory channel here on X as well. And be sure to follow everything BSV blockchain for sure, and keep up to speed because this industry is super exciting. When you start to understand the perfect trifecta with the stallion, the perfect beautiful stallion behind it, nChain protecting the property, you're like, wow, this is kind of exciting. I wonder if anybody else has that behind them. Oh, they don't? Oh, that's too bad. Oh, that's okay. It's just business. I just want to make sure I'm on that team that has the protection, behind it. And it's like the insurance behind it. So it's super, super exciting time right now. I mean, I'm definitely open to
It
hearing.
is indeed. And
Yeah.
you are one to watch, Gavin, because I know that oftentimes if I'm leaving work or I'm doing the dishes or I'm driving, I'll be listening to Spaces. And I love your Spaces because there's all these faces that I have seen on X, on Twitter here, and I've never heard their voice. But then I would listen to your space and there they are. I would see them, I would hear them speaking and hear their ideas. So I absolutely love that, as well as all of the content that you do produce on YouTube. I'll have to look more into the Mastermind series and the Napoleon Hill React videos that you may have posted to learn more there. But definitely, I always do look for the latest news and go through and see what you've posted. Sometimes
Thank you.
the spaces, they're not recorded. And so I'll click on it and it will say, oh, this space has ended. And I think, oh no, quel dommage. How will I learn about this? So I think oftentimes you do also immediately upload to YouTube. So I admire your system as a content creator, and you're definitely someone that, I'll continue to learn from and even follow your example. So thank you for your leadership there, Gavin, too.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. I definitely appreciate it. I mean, I would love to hear ideas. I'm looking for like just great fun ideas, preferably hot topics and viral topics to talk about that people really are interested in that are relevant. I mean, like that, like, oh, everybody wants to come together and talk about this and mastermind on it. And that's like something that I need more of because we come together and it's not the same thing every time. It's something new. So, Roy, if you have any, please let me know if anybody else does. Always wanting that.
Thank you. Yes, we will. And I have noticed also Cub has been hosting Can You Blockchain? And I think that one's really cool. I love to listen to those any chance I get. And of course, anything hosted by One Love. I always love to lurk in those chat rooms. So thanks for everyone that is in the community that does host spaces because this is a brand new technology and it definitely is a caricature for unleashing bandwidth. I mean, it's obvious to understand what bandwidth is when you can have a space like a big group phone call like this, and to have the technology to have millions of people on a call that we've seen demonstrated over the past few months is an extraordinary moment in history.
No, it really
And
is.
so
I mean,
it's great
this
to
having
see your
X right
spaces
here,
too.
Rory, is
Yes,
super amazing. And most boomers are not on X. Most people that I know, they're not even on there. So, it's so
right.
untapped. It's so
It
untapped.
is.
It's
And I was going to ask you, I know we've come to the top of the hour, so we will close the space here shortly. But I wanted to ask you, what was it like for you as a content creator when the X unleashed itself and started to open up the capabilities with X spaces?
well, it it's funny. I really I didn't really see it coming. I mean, being on Twitter started in 2010 for me. I never really got on Facebook. I wasn't a Facebook person. I always kind of say, oh, I didn't like it. I got on there really, really late. But so being on Twitter in 2010, I just started building a small following, and so I was just kept kind of at that, and always posted on YouTube. I started posting on YouTube, and then X, and then Twitter, but not seeing it all coming at all. I mean, it's completely, I would say, within the last year and a half, 2 years. I remember going to Dubai in 2022 conference, and it was definitely, it was big. It was Twitter still, but it was definitely big, but it didn't have the spaces yet. And it wasn't until the spaces started, what, like a year plus ago? It wasn't even that long ago until now. They're like, it's the coolest thing out there. It's basically like your own private radio. Back when I was growing up, you used to have radio, baseball on the radio, or talk radio that you listen to that was cool, that you could find and you could tune in at a certain time. I mean, now we have like that on the spaces. We could tune in to space at a certain time in a topic that we really like, and you get to participate oftentimes. So it is truly, it's truly amazing. It's something that the technology that I think it's changed the world big time. And that integration with that perfect integration with the missing element is the peer-to-peer side. I mean, literally, imagine if we could blend into peer-to-peer, and we didn't have to go onto another platform and upload a wallet and then go onto another platform to pay that wallet, and then you give money to that guy, that content creator that you went into the space, you really liked it. Well, imagine if it was just like, oh, like you hit the thumbs up, boom, and that was it. I mean,
Right.
that's where we're going. So
Hmm.
it does take entrepreneurs. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it takes vision. So if that's you have an entrepreneur mindset. If you're a developer, you're a coder, you got to reach out to the right people, and say, here's my skills, here's what I want to do, or take action. There's a guy right now behind the scenes called Mitch Berman out of Colorado, and he's not on X. He's not on anything. Okay. He is just working. This guy is going to be one of the most influential people in the whole space. He's capturing the energy market on chain. Okay. I mean, it's a massive, massive venture that he's doing, but you're not going to hear him about him anywhere on X. He's not even on. He's not. So these people are just, there's so many people working like in the background that we don't know about. And they're just kind of plugging away, nose to the grindstone. So we just offer whatever we can every day to add value. And that's the mindset that I try to have every single day, is how can I add value? How can I add good emotions? What does each situation call for? To kind of dance into it, because everyone's going to be a little bit different. But if I go into it and I realize that at the end of the day, when bad things happen, pop the champagne. I walk into my house last night, somebody busted in. They opened up my doors. They ransacked some of my rooms. Boy, I could really freak out. I had that panic moment. I did, but then the logic set in. I thought, okay, I'm okay. I'm all right. No, I'm not hurt. Everything's fine. I'm safe. It's not that bad. Let me just log it. Let me do a police report. Boom. Okay, we're good. I did the right thing. Now let me get my head straight, which is, you know what? Every time this has happened before, something really good has happened to me in life, and some massive door has opened because I changed my attitude around a little bit. Just then I said, hey, when bad things happen, pop the champagne. And when you keep that mindset and you laugh about it a little bit and actually kind of make fun of the situation, something really, really good will happen. And I just want to leave you with that, Rory. So I end on a good note. Thank you for
Thank
having.
you, Gavin. Yes, absolutely. And we thank Krez and Brett for hosting us today on the BSV blockchain Explain Like I'm Five space. Everyone listening, please do go ahead and follow Gavin. That's at Gavin Gregory on Twitter, aka X. And also myself, I'm at RBZ Beicheng on X or Twitter here. So thanks everyone for listening. We see you in the chat room and on the replay. Welcome to join us in the BSV blockchain on Discord and join the conversation. Come collab. Thanks, y'all. Good day.